And on the way over here, I was thinking about frequency. I don't know why. I was just thinking about frequency. It popped in my mind, and I said, well, and then the statement, what you do frequently creates your frequency.
I like it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And and then I also was thinking about music too.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how your vibe, right? What we associate to our vibe,
Mm-hmm.
right? That could also be a frequency, correct? And if you're listening to music and you switch the song, it's going to change or just the vibe. It's going to change the way you think. But if we can start to really be intentional about, to your point, about even the colors that we allow ourselves to be influenced by or submerged around, right? Depending on the moment, depending on the time, and depending on what the goal is, it might be important to make adjustments intentionally to see if leveraging what we know, kind of the unknown knowledge about frequencies and vibrations, to see if that actually can benefit in our favor.
Completely. And one way to think about it is like mini hacks, right? So if you can hack your state, what can you do to hack your state? And I think one thing you can do to hack your state is music, right? You can hack your state with music. So, for example, when you're about to do a heavy lift, is there a song that you put on? Boom, you're about to go in.
Exactly.
Right. So, like, do you put on "Many Men" by 50 Cent?
Right.
Do you put on like "I Got the Dog in Me"? Whatever it might be. So, I think if we think of it of hacking our state of consciousness, our vibration, the frequency that we're listening to, the frequency that we're communicating on, I think it's about figuring out how we can hack it. And I think music is a great way to hack it. So if we take that conversation and we say, how do we leverage music to hack our state?
Yeah.
And then how do we use colors to hack our state? Right? Now, the same could be said, and as you were saying that, it had me thinking about the new year. Right? April 1st is the new year. Right? We won't go into all of the whole Gregorian calendar,
right.
And calendar meaning calend, which had to do with taxes. So they redid the calendar by King Gregory, which is why it's called the Gregorian calendar. And then on top of that, you have Julius Caesar and Augustus, who wanted their months because of their pride. And that's why we have July from Julius Caesar and Augustus from what's August. And if you just look at the calendar of the months, sept, oct, nov, and dec, right? Those prefixes in words mean numbers. Octagon is what? 8-sided, right? So that was the 8th month. Sept means 9, nov means 10. Nov means 9, dec means 10. Decimal, right? DEC, 10. So that's how all of those were shifted. I share that to say April's the first month of the real year.
Got it.
So if we dive deeper, let's think about what happens in spring, right? What colors happen in spring? What are the effects of walking through a garden of colorful flowers versus walking through a barren desert versus being around only snow, right? Some people that have a very modern aesthetic in a home, to me, feels very cold. It doesn't feel inspiring.
It can feel cold.
Yeah. Like even just sitting here with you right now, this green is feeding me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's wild.
Right.
The green behind you is feeding my eyes and it's making you more vibrant.
Yeah.
In my perception, because of the green that's feeding me while we just have, a white behind me, right? So I think there's something there if we start to think about hacking our own personal state, right? We may not be able to manipulate the environment around us. We may not be able to curate the environment around us. We may not be able to demand what the environment around us looks like at all times. At the same time, can we curate our own best case scenario or best environment that we want for ourselves in our home? And that the same could be said with music, right? I mean, there are some people that their home, when you walk into their home, the music is on. So, let me tell you a story. Like, growing up in Brooklyn, Saturday morning, if you were outside, everybody, I mean, this is, even if it was hot out, people don't have air conditioners on. Like, you maybe had the air conditioners on at night. But it wasn't, people weren't running home and hanging out in their air conditioning, central air. I didn't know what central air was till I was in high school, probably.
Right.
We would have.
You're outside.
Huh?
You're outside or you got the fan going.
You'd be outside, you have the fan going, or you just have the window unit air conditioners.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Put it in the window, close the window, put the slides out to the side, hope for the best.
Yep.
Right? Supposed to screw it in, nobody does.
Yeah.
Like, maybe put some duct tape to seal it. Right?
Yeah.
But point being is that Saturday mornings, growing up in New York City, it was like people's windows were open, right? And in the neighborhood I grew up in, like, what happened? People had music on. People, dancing around, cleaning the house.
Yeah.
Right? It became a thing. And, within the Hispanic community, within the Jamaican, whatever it was a thing because the music was on. Right? It was like the beat.
Right.
Like the beat of the drum.
Right.
You walk through a neighborhood,
right,
and it's got a rhythm to it, right?
For sure.
Like, we'd have block parties,
right,
and the fire hydrant would be open, shooting water out.
Oh yeah.
Maybe somebody's got a boom box, maybe somebody's car radio's on.
Right.
But each neighborhood had a vibration.
Had a vibe, yeah,
it was a good vibe. It's a bad vibe. Some neighborhoods have, not such a good vibe.
For sure.
And that's understandable. So I think what that says to us is, all right, let's think about that. Music can curate the vibe that we're in. Anybody can say, if anyone says no to this, they're full of shit. An Adele song comes on, and all of a sudden it's like, kind of puts you in a...
That is exactly what I was saying
like,
about a song come on your playlist, and then you just find yourself like...
And if you were at the mercy... Now, here's the thing. Now, to your point... to your point, your playlist.
Right.
So that's on you.
No, I feel you, but it's like sometimes you might have a shuffle going, and I was thinking on the way over, I had a shuffle going, and every song that came on changed my energy, and I said, "Man, it's so powerful. We should talk about that,
right?
Because it's no way around it. It is the fact."
And all we can do,
ignore it or embrace it.
And the first thing is to identify fact.
Right.
And then what do we want to do to use it to our advantage? That's how I see it. Riddle me this. Scoundrels. You know what I mean? Like, how do we figure it out?
How do we figure it out?
Yes, right. Excellent. But
Grinch.
It's a fact, right? So now what do we do to help? Now, what are the playlists that we curate? Right? Now, does that mean that we then have to take that big playlist you have and break it up into buckets, right? Where it's less chance. There are sometimes I'm at the gym, I got one song on repeat.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Because that's the vibration. That's the energy that I want. It's like maybe some old school New York City, Ja Rule, Fat Joe. I got 100 guns, 100 clips, right? So that song's on repeat.
Bully mode must be legendary.
Correct. Right. I just want to bully everybody. But then so now how do we say that to ourselves? So now the next question then comes, all right. First thing we got to do is control what goes into our head. That we have access over, that goes in through in our headphones, within our car, right? And then the next thing is understand the environments that we're in, right? We were talking the other day, I forgot my headphones at the gym.
Yeah.
I'm at the gym, Mariah Carey's playing, then it jumps to AC/DC, then it jumps to Bruno Mars.
You talking about in the gym?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for the coming through the music.
They'll swing you all over the place.
Right. So it's like all of a sudden it's like Bruno Mars, Mariah, then it went to Guns N' Roses, and just was kind of jumping all over the place.
Yeah, some of that music's too soft in there.
But and that's going to change the environment that's in, and I think it has an effect on people, which changes the entire environment. So
for sure.
The short answer is that how do we hack? Vibration hacks. Let's just call this clip vibration hacks.
I like that.
How to hack your vibration, right? Is just basically going to be what songs get you into what states. How do you figure out what your go-to songs are? And how do you have them ready on cue when you want to put yourself into that state? Some people always do the arms akimbo. They're like right before you go into a meeting, do a powerful pose because then it absorbs that energy of you standing in a victorious, powerful pose, and it's absolutely true.
Oh,
100% true. The exact same way visualization works.
for sure.
So visualization, changing your state and putting your state in a sense of you already having what it is that you want, or you already being where you want to be.
Yeah.
You already doing what you want to do. And how do you figure out how to embody that energy before you have it, before you're there, before you're around that environment, and before you are that person?
Right.
That's one of the biggest. Have you heard of Neville Goddard?
Oh yeah, I read his books.
Yeah, his books, right? I mean, and that's a lot
Power of Awareness.
Yeah, and a lot of his recordings that I'll listen to now are all about that. The power of assumption.
Oh yeah.
The power of assumption.
Yeah.
I'm already there. I already have it. Right? I'm already this person. So how do I walk, talk, and act like this person?
Right.
Because I already am that person.
For sure.
As I continue to grow into being that person. You know, I heard an interesting metaphor. It was actually a quote. It said, butterflies is like, it was, what does it do like? Butterflies and caterpillars. So it was saying that butterflies can crawl, but they don't. And it had to do with caterpillars crawl. Right? So it's like caterpillars can crawl. I'm completely botching this, by the way, but stay with me.
I think, yeah, I'm following you.
Caterpillars can crawl.
Right.
A butterfly can crawl, but don't. Because you've already evolved to the point where you can fly.
Got you.
You see what I'm saying?
And you perceive that behavior as being...
Don't engage in the behavior of a caterpillar when you've already become a butterfly.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it.
You see what I'm saying? So it's like, you can crawl.
Yeah.
A butterfly can get on the ground and move its legs, I guess. Butterflies have legs, I guess, right? Moving down, but don't. Because that's caterpillar behavior. Mm-hmm. And you may have been a caterpillar in the past, as we all have. But when do you figure out, I don't caterpillar anymore?
So you gotta let it go.
I don't caterpillar.
You let it go. I don't do that anymore. And you know, that leads me to another point. And
What's
there's two things I was going to say. One, I'll write it down. It was identify. And then the other one was from Tony Robbins, and he was saying that if you want to change your mood, change your state, right? Mm-hmm. I forget exactly how he said it.
Yep.
But he was saying something, you have to change your physical state. And a lot of times when you see somebody in a mood, right? And we're talking about all the same things. We're talking about vibrations and frequencies and all of this energy, and you know what I mean? That's what we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Your mood, okay? You're in a certain mood right now. A lot of people are, they say, slaves to their moods, right? However your mood is feeling, pretty much however we've allowed our environment to influence our behavior, right? Yeah. Because if we're putting ourselves in an environment, you forgot your headphones and the music they're playing, it's going to influence your mood, your behavior. It's going to influence just slightly, right?
Completely.
Or it takes a very high level of focus to learn over time how to filter things out and stay locked in, laser focused. And that's why we magnify that level of discipline so much, because we admire it. Like, yeah, locked in, laser focused, right? We all aspire to getting to that point to where we can just stay locked in and, you know, don't let the distractions take us off guard. But it's so challenging to get out of a mood. It's so challenging to make that manual shift. If it wasn't challenging, people would do it. It's hard, right? And so then our day comes of moments of heightened levels of emotion, feeling good, and then feeling whatever, indifferent, bad, negative, whatever, and then feeling great again. It's not a lot of consistency. And so anytime that we might find ourselves starting to sway against that boundary before we start to become inconsistent to where we want to be,
right?
Tony Robbins was highlighting that change your state immediately. Like, clap your hands, make some noise, get up, right? Scream, you know what I mean? Like, change your state rapidly.
Yeah. Right
when you're feeling yourself with that tug of war, that drift of trying to get out of a funk or a place to where you don't want to be. They said, change your state, get up, do something. And they said that little adjustment will help you stay in control. And then another thing I was thinking about what you said was identify. It's kind of sparked a thought in my head. And I've had this conversation with several people in the past, and it's more so around what you identify with. And as soon as you identify differently, you behave differently, you unlock something in the human mind that is not really tapped into enough, which is the power of how we view ourselves. We understand why we need to work on maintaining a really good self-image, but it's more so with Mowgli acted like a wolf,
Mm-hmm.
even though he was a boy,
Mm-hmm.
because he identified as a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't identify as a man. That's all he knew. That's all he saw.
Mm-hmm.
He identified as a wolf, not a man. So he acted as a wolf in the jungle. That's the way he was raised, or by a panther, or whatever it is.
Yep.
Right? So if you identify as a butterfly, you're not even going to consider crawling, because that's not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you crawl? Yeah, the ability is there, but it's about manually making that shift, that adjustment to identify differently. And it's one thing I do teach with behavior change with some of my clients. It's a lot of times when they're trying to make the shift, I said, you have to see yourself as a healthy person now. Because if you continue to see yourself as Sharon, Karen, Lisa, Jen, Tom, Tim, Peter, whatever, you're going to continue to behave the same way. So you have to identify now yourself with, I'm a healthy human and I don't do those things.
Sure.
Right? I'm a fit individual. I don't do these things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm whatever. I don't do those things. And it really helps you look at behaviors we can do as extremely unnecessary. And it almost helps to break that bond I've seen from feeling so attached to something that you can't change, those bad behaviors. Immediately when you tell yourself, I'm this now, it really helps release that stronghold that a lot of things have on us. If we just mentally tell, I'm different, I'm over here now, right? I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior, I'm doing something different.
Mm-hmm.
And I will pass the ball back to you in a second, but it kind of leads me now a little bit off the beaten trail, but into kind of fatherhood.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe that's why sometimes when people are thrusted into being a parent, that now they adjust their behaviors because they feel like, I can't do that now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a parent, right? They have a higher level of responsibility.
Sure.
And so if we can use some of those like hacks, mental hacks, right? Some of those vibrational hacks to change the way in which we view things or understand things, and really understand how the mind works and where we can unlock certain things that help us, you know, align ourselves appropriately. I think that's good.
So a couple things there to unpack. So completely agree with that. To your point earlier about the emotional state and the mood.
For sure.
Right? We're talking about the moods and the emotional state, and how challenging it is to change the different moods in the environments that you're in. So it made me think of something very interesting, which was sporting events. It's one of the reasons why I don't like to go to sporting events where I'm sitting in the big, massive crowd. Right. Where I'm like, if I don't have a right, and again, let it sound however it wants. Right. I don't care. I don't do concerts either. Yeah. I'm not gonna go stand in a sea of, 5,000 people just all here chanting at one person. Not my thing. Yeah. Because you're also then at the mercy of the energy and the vibration and the mood of the crowd at times. Because as resilient as we claim to be, we're still influenced by our environment. Everyone is. Now, can we do something to help be more resilient to it? Absolutely. But there's no one on the face of the earth that's gonna say that living in Seattle where it rains 80% of the year does not have some type of state effect on the people that live there. Oh, I can't fathom that being right. Like versus living in San Diego where it's sunny 80% of the year. For sure. You can't tell me that doesn't have some effect on the vast majority of the population. Oh yeah. Right? So I think we can all agree with that. So it made me think of sporting events. And the risk in going to a sporting event is that you're gambling in a way, right? Like you're trying to experience the highs of the highs. You're trying to experience winning. You're trying to experience group euphoria. For sure. You're trying to experience the high with the risk of experiencing the low. Right? If you ever gone to a game and everybody's there, energy's real high, and the team is just getting spanked the first quarter. Right? Game is out of reach. Spanked. How's the energy for the rest of the game? Yeah. Right? Yeah. And it's not about, hey, I'm in the environment, I'm here. Energy the rest of the game is shot. Right? So it makes me think about sporting events and the gamble a person makes when they put themselves in those environments. So I think the lesson there for everybody is that different environments can be a gamble of what energy you're going to put yourself in. And I think if you can realize that, you can be more aware of places to go, people to be around. And then, as Jim Rohn used to say, you're not a tree, move.
For sure.
Right? Put yourself into environments that are more conducive to the vibration and the energy that you want, where the moods of others can affect you. So maybe think about sporting events. And then to the second point where you were saying was, how do you identify, where you had the young man in the book who is identifying as a wolf, right? And there's power in that identity, the word identity. And I think it's been hijacked in certain parts of our culture right now as well. Because I was in a work environment recently, and they were talking about protected classes. Well, this is, who identifies in this protected class, right? And you have all these badges that people have the ability to put on themselves, for better or for worse.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a slippery slope, because the minute you start to put out there, well, these are identifying, these are the badges that you identify with, you then also take on whatever assumptions, whatever behaviors, whatever energy the world wants to project upon anyone else that wears that badge. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So now if someone puts on a badge that says Republican or a badge that says Democrat, you are now exposing yourself to the world in whatever that means to anyone else's perception, right? So what then that says is, if we talk the identity conversation, then we have to say to ourselves, not only what do I identify as, but who do I identify as? That to me is the higher level. Because if I say,
that's important.
Correct. Because if you say, what do you identify as? So if you're working with clients, something that you probably identify as is a lifelong athlete.
For sure.
I am an athlete.
Big time.
You identify as an athlete in perpetuity.
Right.
Because you wore that badge for so long, you can't fathom putting it down or taking it off.
Right.
Now, those that have never had that badge on can't fathom putting it on. In theory, right?
Sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So now, that's when I work out, I think to myself, well, I'm an athlete. I have to stay ready, right? So and I never played at the level you played.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in my mind, growing up, I identified as an athlete,
right.
And I held on to that identity factor, right? That badge, because it's beneficial to me. So it's identifying what badges are beneficial to you and why. Right? I might wear a badge that says I'm a New Yorker if I honestly feel it's beneficial to who I am as a person. Do I think it is? I personally do. I think there's a certain amount of resilience that came about growing up in certain environments. There's a certain resilience of the ecosystem that I grew up in, right? There's things that I can still identify with because I believe there are positive characteristics that came out of that. Now, if there are negative characteristics that come out of that, I can choose to remove that. But the same reason I don't wear a political badge by choice. I don't have to wear a political badge.
Yeah.
If someone wants to ask me if I'm red or blue, I ask them, what's your question? On what issue? On what issue?
Right.
I can have a conversation about it, but what issue are you talking about?
Right.
Rather than you being so mundane and so, high level that you feel that one question is going to allow you to put me in a bucket with all of my viewpoints, perspectives, and opinions. I'm not going to allow you to do that to me. We can talk issue for issue, or we don't have to speak about any of the issues. No problem, but that's a choice that I'm making. So I think back to your point, it's how do you decide what it is you're identifying as, and then who you're identifying as.
Right.
So even with your clients, like I said, you can identify as an athlete. That's a badge I feel you're going to have on the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right? Probably. That's who you are, right? It's like, I'm an athlete. But like, why do you train so hard? Right? I'm an athlete.
Athletes do.
Correct. Right.
Why do you run why do you go to the track and run?
That's
what athletes do.
Why do you fly? That's what butterflies do. That's why I don't crawl.
That's what eagles do. That's what
exactly.
And that's that's the hack.
Exactly. So the hack there, it's understanding what you want to identify as and who you want to identify as, and embodying the characteristics, behaviors, and movements of that with whom you identify as, and starting to put those into place immediately, right? And I think that's part of that hack. And part of that also has to do with the state that that person you identify is in. And you can use sensory cues, sensory perception, sensory opportunities to help you with that. So smells, right? Like,
Right.
I mean, you ever come home with some cookies baking right now?
Right.
Right?
Makes you hungry.
Makes you hungry. I mean,
Makes you think about cookies.
Christmas time, yeah, it was like I get some cookies, but I'm an athlete, so I can't. Right? But what I mean, all of those.
Go run.
There you go, because all those are badges.
I gotta go. Yeah.
All those are badges. Now, then to add to your other point, where you were
Yeah.
saying, if when a person does get to that point of identifying as a parent, that then is a new badge that they have to, that they're choosing to put on,
For
or
sure.
maybe they're not choosing, but hopefully they're choosing, and the right people are having as many kids as possible.
For sure.
Right. And that once they put on that badge, now I think it's also very realistic of them, and I think it's very noble of them to say, I'm putting, when I have this badge on, my state is different, my energy is different. Right. I think that's one of the most interesting things about a person when they get to that point, because you can't go home and I've seen this before. If you ever see someone that's raised by a parent, like a father who's a cop, it's a very interesting thing, because sometimes what happens is that cop energy, that authoritative, demanding, do what I say energy, gets taken into the home. Right? It's different. In the same way, they always say, like, oh, the pastor's daughter, the pastor's kids, right? Because there's a certain amount of energy that profession of what they identify as leaks into the home life. And they're showing up as that. Does that make sense? So now they're showing up as that. It's kind of like, someone that was raised by a coach who happened to be a coach professionally.
Right.
Like Jordan's father, Kobe's father, the Williams sisters' father, Tiger Woods' father.
Right.
They all happen to be professional coaches. What a coincidence.
Right.
Right? Or they all happen to be in coaching in some way.
Right.
Leadership in some way. What a coincidence.